Thanks, Jane. If my title for the President's Appeal was as a result of listening to Malala's father speaking on his ongoing efforts for the educational rights of girls in Pakistan and beyond. During that interview, he said, "I opened the door and I watched her fly. And then I suddenly realized that I had my title, Opening Doors to a Bright Future." Next, please. I would like to introduce you to Leanne Cochran, who is the President's Appeal Coordinator for 21-23. Leanne is from Cleveland, Ohio, in SI America, and is a past fundraising chair for the Appeals Fund at SIA. So she certainly knows how to raise money, and I know that you will be in contact with her shortly. Next one, please. So you all know there are many barriers that women and girls face in today's world, including but not limited to the list that there is on the left-hand side. Some of these I've already mentioned, but some I haven't. Forced marriage, FGM, teenage pregnancy, caring responsibilities, lack of participation in leadership and decision making. Sometimes it's down to the lack of schools and the limitations on teacher training and learning materials. Next, please. I have chosen education as the focus for the SI President's Appeal 21-23 because I believe that education is a fundamental human right for everyone. It is a powerful driver for sustainable development and peace. It is one of the strongest instruments for reducing the multiple barriers that affect women and girls around the world. And in fact, all of the sustainable development goals requires education in order to succeed. Irrespective of race, creed, and gender, education makes it possible for women and girls to stand out as equals with other persons from different walks of life and to participate fully in society. It gives us an understanding of the world around us and offers an opportunity to use that knowledge wisely. Next, please. The objectives of the appeal are to provide access to education in all its forms for disadvantaged and marginalized women and girls, to provide education for women and girls in a safe, friendly, and stimulating environment where there is equality of opportunity and support for all. We want to develop self-confidence, self-esteem, and for the women and girls to feel valued through mentoring projects, to enable women, particularly the most vulnerable and excluded in society, to access information, resources, and services they need to make positive life choices. We want to break down barriers to learning and participation for women so that they become fully active citizens and are equipped to pass on their experiences to benefit their families and broader communities. Next, please. The projects will be implemented through three main channels: through effective learning environments, through being creative and flexible, having the appropriate number of students, no overcrowding in the classrooms, having a sense of ownership, being made to feel safe, being engaged, and having support. We may at sometimes offer scholarships, and we will hope to use teachers and educators. Next, please. The outcomes and impacts that will result, hopefully, from the projects are that women and girls will learn and feel safe while they are learning, have the opportunity to complete different levels of education, acquire the knowledge and skills to compete in the labour market, and thus earn higher incomes, learn the social, emotional, and life skills necessary to navigate and adapt to a changing world, make decisions about their own lives, so important, to be better informed about healthcare and nutrition so that they have fewer children who are healthier and allowed to marry at a later age, thus contributing to their communities and the wider world. Next, please. There will be one project in each of the 5 federations. The first project is within the Federation of the Southwest Pacific and is being launched in Cambodia. The second one will most likely be in Pakistan, in our own federation of Sigby. The third one will be in Uganda in the African Federation. And just yesterday, I have heard of another potential project which will be launched in SI Europe. As yet, SI America has yet to be decided. Next, please. So our launch project will be in the Federation of the Southwest Pacific in Cambodia and will be called Education and Learning Through the Life course. Our partnership project will be the Cambodian Community Dream Organization, the CCDO, and it may be a charity that you're already aware of. It was established back in 2007 and has been working in the region of Siem Reap, a rural part of the community with many marginalized families who are missing a generation of older men due to the conflict back in the 1970s, 80s. Next, please. The project will cover two areas. Firstly, that of providing access to education for disadvantaged and marginalized girls who are aged between 10 and 15 years of age. These are girls who have not returned to school because of many factors: caring responsibilities, the necessity to go out to work, unsafe environments to name some of the reasons. The project will give extensive teaching support to these girls to enable them to catch up on missed education, thus enabling them to move on to middle or higher education, depending on their age group, and hence, hopefully, obtain better work and opportunities in the future. Next, please. The second area will be to work with newly widowed women and female-headed households and train them in the various aspects of making themselves financially independent, thus improving their self-confidence and self-esteem. They will be taught how to access information, resources, and services they need to make positive life choices and accept the opportunities for leadership and participation within their own villages. They will become role models for others and will be equipped to pass on their experiences to benefit their families and the broader communities. We have done a lot of work on this because now that we are a charity, we have to ensure that we are reviewing our governing documents, our proof of charitable status, reading the outcome reports from other projects these organizations have dealt with in the past. We're looking at their accounts to make sure that they're able to look after funds that we would give them. We've been looking at the child protection and safeguarding policies they have. And we're also looking at the CVs of the staff who will be working on the projects. A baseline assessment is going to be carried out before the project starts, and this will then be used to compare the end line evaluation in 2023. Next, please, Jane. And if you could start the music. I don't think it's playing. Anyway, you can stop the presentation, Jane. So, Soroptimist, our work is not finished, but I do know that together, you and I are looking forward to an exciting and challenging future, spreading our service and friendship across the world to change it for a better life through education, improving the quality of life for women and girls who suffer many hardships and barriers. There are great opportunities right now, and I hope that you will seize them by looking outwards, by thinking outside the box, by changing experiences, by building back better, by thinking like the Soroptimists who have gone before you, that your vision for humanity will make a lasting impact on our world. I would just like to say before I finish that my thoughts and prayers have been with you all on the sad passing of dear Johanna during her year as Federation President. A wonderful lady with great personality. I miss her, and I know you do also. And I know that she had a vision for humanity as well. So again, thank you for inviting me and giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts and thinking with you. Thank you.
Thank Thank you, Maureen. I'm going to hand over to Pauline, who's going to take questions and do a vote of thanks. If you want to unmute yourself. Sorry, not Pauline, I beg your pardon, to Rita. Rita, if you would like to unmute yourself. Sorry.
Right, no problem. That was brilliant, Maureen. A real vision for us for the next 2 years. I think we're in for a really exciting time, really do. Ladies, questions, please. And Jane, I'm going to ask you, because I can't see everyone on screen, so can I ask you to also pick this up?
That's brilliant.
Sure, we must have somebody. Oh, right, Mary.
Right. Maureen, I was very interested by the presentation that where you've opened up so many issues and ideas. One of the things that was interesting me was this business about the focus in the Cambodian project and whether there would be similar overlap with the Pakistan project that is currently under discussion, because the other point that links into this, of course, is there are considerable funds accruing to the Diamond Education Grant. And there might be some opportunities for funding scholarships through that.
Yes, however, I don't want to confuse the two, because one is a federation initiative and the other one is the SI initiative. But that's not to say that we couldn't work together on some of the grants. If there is some, because I do know that the Diamond Education Fund is not able to fund all of the applications that they do have. The project that I'm thinking about in Pakistan, I have been working with Talat, who you are all aware of and who you all know. And I've been working with an organization called SOS, who have schools throughout Pakistan and many other countries in the world. The project there is slightly different in that we are going to train teachers because that is sustainable. And I'm hoping that all of the projects that I do, that the outcomes will be sustainable. And therefore, we're looking at actually training some teachers in Pakistan. I don't want to say too much more because it's not finalized. The one in Uganda is looking at teenagers who, because of COVID, have been pushed out of their home because they're pregnant. It's a taboo in the society, and those girls have gone out and are living in the bush. And in actual fact, I was horrified because I learned that some of them don't even know that babies should be fed milk or breast milk, which would be better for them. But in actual fact, they were feeding them black tea. So I see that there's a need there to do some education with teenage girls, especially around the healthcare and nutritional side. The project in Europe, actually, I've only just started the discussions on it. I was approached by one of our UN representatives and asked about an initiative that she has just heard about. It isn't up and running yet, so I don't want to say any more about it. And I'm still looking for one in Africa. Now, the Diamond Education Fund is normally, when I was involved in it, was only able to give out grants of about £400, £400 to £500, because each year they try to give as many grants as possible, but their limit is normally around the £20,000–£25,000 mark. So I know that this was something that Johanna was really passionate about, and that she'd given a challenge out to all clubs to raise £100 for 100th year. And I do hope that that continues and that clubs are continuing to do that. I will look at it and I will see whether we could possibly do something within Pakistan, if there should be perhaps some request for educational purposes in Pakistan.
Thank you very much.
Helen, you have your hand up.
I do. That's fantastic, Maureen. Your description of the reorganisation of SI and your plans and structure for the future sound fantastic, and your projects sound hard work and amazing. So fantastic that you've got to where you've got to. One of the things that I've really enjoyed over the last year or two are the podcasts that SI have been doing. I wondered if they were going to carry on, and what plans you've got for communicating out to the world about us.
The podcasts will continue, but not in the quantity that they have been, because I just think there's too many. And it's a lot of work for the staff at the headquarters. And we've had additional help because of the 100th anniversary, and have brought in extra staff for the year. So that may not continue. The board is yet to decide whether it can afford it within its budget or not. But we're hoping to do perhaps webinars and podcasts that will go together. And I would like to focus them around education. So it could be education and climate change. It could be education and domestic violence. It could be education and poverty. And we would then obviously get speakers that will tie in and try and tie them all together so that they seem to be running consecutively, together. So that's the answer. And we are hoping to do them possibly about every 6 weeks, but not 1 or 2 a month, because it's too much work.
Yes, no, I can imagine.
And also I think I would rather have them more focused, and perhaps then we could advertise them that little bit more, and maybe the first one might be on Cambodia. It might be an extension, and bringing on the lady who's actually running the organization, who is just fabulous. She is amazing, and I would just love everybody to hear her talking, because she really enthused me about the project.
Fantastic. That sounds really good.
Barbara Saunders, yes, you have a question.
I do. Thank you, Rita, and thank you, Maureen, for that incredibly interesting review of where you're at and where you want to see Soroptimist International go in the future in terms of the international project. I'm still a very new-ish member, and certainly a new president of my club, and we're about to have a discussion about the sort of criteria that we might use when choosing which international projects to support. And I think, for smallish clubs, actually choosing, I think we do need some help and advice and criteria. And I wonder if you can offer the benefit of your experience in that area to help us before we have our discussions next week.
Well, first of all, you need to ensure, if it's an international organization that you're working with, you need to look at their previous work that they have carried out, because there's no point in going forward with something that doesn't work. You also need to look at their annual accounts. You need to look at any projects and also get some references from them. I used some of the work that CCDO had done with Rotary, and had looked at some of their outcome reports and how they had actually reported back on the projects and what information they were able to provide. We are currently at this moment in time drawing up a contract with them. So there's all the different things that you would put into a contract, who is responsible for what. So I could give you probably a checklist if you really, really want it. But, sometimes you get a gut feeling.
I think that's what I'm after. Sorry to interrupt. In a sense, it's that with all the possible opportunities of things we can support, even within the SIGB family, and Soroptimist International, you know, do you come back to just gut in the end and what the members like the feel of?
So far, I have used information that I have gleaned from other people who have actually worked with these projects before, or these partners before, because I think it's sometimes by working with people that you get to know them, you get to understand how they work. But again, now that we have moved into a foundation from which the present appeal will work, we have to be sure of the governance arrangements. We have to ensure that the money is being used for what it's intended to be. One of the big things that I believe is that you have to really find out how they're going to actually deliver on the ground and what sort of policies and procedures they have for their staff to work. So we have been looking at safeguarding policies. We've been looking at child protection policy, and they are different when you're dealing with an international organization because they've got to adhere to whatever the legislation is within their countries. For example, the one in Pakistan, I had 3 organizations to look at, and I discovered that there was one that I couldn't work with because they weren't a charitable organization and weren't allowed to accept money from outside the country. So that just wiped them away completely. And it was one of the best projects because it was all about retraining women. And I think, when you look at some of the situations in which these women live and work, and you think about what we have and about what they have, you would just love to support them. But unfortunately, on this occasion, I couldn't. And I was just so sorry. So, there's a plea that if you have a friendship link in Pakistan, there is a wonderful project that you could actually maybe fund your club in Pakistan, your friendship link, to actually fund that particular project because it is really, really good. But I want to have a project where I do have a Soroptimist club nearby, because then I can use the members if there is a problem, or if I want them to go and make sure that something is happening the way that I've been told it's happening, then I have someone on the ground to check.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Any more questions, ladies? Nope. Right. Well, thank you so much for joining us this morning, Maureen. Your presentation was so succinct, and thank you for sharing your ideas of taking the SI forward and bringing all the 5 federations together, which is really, really important over the next 2 years. I love the project. I think it takes us back to our grassroots. It's really, really good. And the idea of having lifelong learning, taking that right through, and it's lifelong learning in its broadest sense, including healthcare, stopping violence and women against women and children. I think it's absolutely great. So 2 really exciting years ahead. And as the secretary to the Dublin Convention, I can't not put a good plug in, because we're all going to be in Dublin in July 2023, and we're going to have a brilliant convention with you there. So thank you, Maureen. And can I ask you all to thank Maureen in the usual way? Thank you.
Could I just say that the presentation and some information about the project is now on the SI website. If you go into the SI resources, and you can actually download the presentation. It may be slightly different, but it's roughly the same. So if you want to show it to your clubs, and there's also some information about the project, and as each project comes in line, each page, there'll be a different page for each project.